Welcome to the Atheist in Recovery podcast, where we talk about finding hope in recovery. And now your host, Dr. Adina Silvestri.
Hola guys, and welcome to episode 68 of the Atheists in Recovery podcast. And today we are talking about self-care during an election. This is a special themed episode of the Atheists in Recovery podcast, but I thought that it was a very timely episode. For many Americans, including myself, I feel a sense of worry that this may be a horrific election. No matter who you are voting for this year, Americans feel that they have the weight of the future resting on their shoulders. And so today I want to take some time to talk about election anxiety. What is it, and how can we build our resilience during this season? All right, let's get started. Election anxiety, as you can imagine, is anxiety or fear over what we're imagining during the 2020 election. During this year, a survey by Gartner, and I'll put the link in the show notes, found that 47% of workers say that the 2020 election has distracted them from doing their jobs. And I asked the A.I.R listeners what they were doing to combat election anxiety on social and via the newsletter, and this is what they had to say. Lisa M. says, "Stick to the Weather Channel!" ! The Brits are right. Talk about the weather and you will be safe. Look for ways to move to Sweden as a completely escapist idea, even though it will never happen. Those are great tips, Lisa M. And Laura says, listen to your body. Listen to what your body needs and do that. Rest, stretch, express. That's how I'm going to get through. So thank you, listeners, for responding to my question. That was a lot of fun to get some of those answers. And I believe that the Brits are right, Lisa M. Just talk about the weather. For me, since I already voted, I will be out in nature, probably going for a run that morning and then seeing clients that afternoon. Seeing clients, after all, is a big part of my happy place. So in case you deal with generalized anxiety disorder, also called GAD, here are 5 self-care tips to release stress and welcome a much more pleasant 2021. Tip number 1, limit your newsfeed. Our social media accounts can be great for staying in touch with family and friends, but in turbulent times, conversations can turn ugly when talking about political events. You may even unfriend an aunt or cousin or two. So keeping up with current events also means a constant stream of breaking news. So this is important. Maybe delete all of the social media from your phone during this season, and that will go a long way in limiting your news feed. Tip number 2, set boundaries. Be proactive of your time and energy and listen to what your body needs. This may mean keeping your bed a phone-free zone, turning it on airplane mode to start your day on the right foot. I do this often. Boundaries like these are crucial for our mental health. Perhaps you already took November 4th off. Good for you. You're setting the stage for a healthy election day and post-election day. So you get a gold star. Tip number 3, get out in nature. You do not have to engage in a 5-mile run to achieve the benefits of exercise. You can simply take a mindful walk outside. That'll do the trick, and it will also help lower your anxiety. And a mindful walk is just being very present as you're walking, feeling your feet touch the ground, noticing the surroundings, what you smell, what you see, what you hear. All of the senses are engaged on these mindful walks. Tip number 4, think about how you can impact the future. It's really easy to look around the world right now and feel helpless and overwhelmed. I get it. I feel this way. I know my clients and checking in with them over the last week also feel this way. But to be honest, voting is not enough. We all need to get involved to improve our communities and our countries. What can you do right now? You can help organize, send emails and postcards. You can become a pen pal to a mature adult at your local nursing home. Maybe you make food for the unhoused. Start a virtual food drive, donate blood, or whatever it is that puts your skills to good use to help impact the future. A great volunteer site that I recently discovered that matches your skills is called Volunteer Match, and I'll put a link in the show notes. This might sound daunting at first, but once you get involved, I promise you'll start to feel better about the world and just seeing the generosity and compassion in strangers. You'll feel good. Tip number 5. Take a mental health day on November 4th. This is very similar to setting boundaries. Tip number 2. Tip number 5, a mental health day, it's not just good for you, but it's also good for the people that are around you. During this time of high anxiety, taking a day off after an election may be just what you need. And on that day, perhaps you engage in your favorite activities or just allow space for rest that is so needed. I highly recommend taking Wednesday, November 4th off, especially since we'll be dealing with the election news and the uncertainty of who will win the next presidency for several weeks to come if you listen to the news reports. Well, those are my 5 tips on self-care during an election. And so to wrap this up, do whatever you can to take good care of yourself during this season. And no matter what you are feeling, trust that this is temporary and all things shall pass. You can find the show notes and the transcript for today's episode at adinasilvestri.com/episode 68. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. And please do subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode. Okay, guys, I appreciate you. Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Atheists in Recovery podcast. For more great info and to stay up to date, head over to atheistsandrecovery.com.